Inspiring interviews with today's top landlords. This is the Rental Income Podcast. And now, Dan Lane.
Joining me on the show today is Nhan Lam. Nhan is a house flipper that in the last year got into owning rental properties. And he has been doing something really incredible. He's buying properties with none of his own money. In the last year, he's bought 2 properties, and both of them he bought with a combined $1,000 out of his own pocket. I want to hear how he did that, what he's doing. I want to hear how he's finding properties, how he's managing them. And he's actually also in the same market that I am in Northern Virginia, which is a really expensive market, hard to find good cash flowing properties, but he's finding them. So I want to find out what he's doing. So Nhan, welcome to the show. How did you get started owning rentals?
Well, I got started last year. We actually been renovating homes and selling them for profit for a few years now. And of course, the end game is to build wealth in real estate. So the best way to do that is to own single-family rental units, multifamily, anything that creates passive income that later gives you nice tax depreciation advantages. So that's always been my end game, and I just started doing that this latter part of last year, and really enjoying it and continuing to build our portfolio. And
so you've got 2 properties now, and you've got a couple under contract?
Actually, not a contract yet. They're in the pipeline. They're strong in the pipeline, and we're pretty close to probably acquiring them either later this year or maybe even early 2016.
Okay. So in our market in Northern Virginia, it is really difficult to find something that cash flows. In a lot of the country, you can buy places for $50,000 that rent for $1,000 a month, and those deals are kind of no brainers. Around here, it's the prices are higher and the rents aren't high enough. What are you doing to find good cash flowing deals?
Okay. Well, first of all, it is more challenging in the DC metropolitan area just because of the prices. But I truly believe that any investor or business person, if they have the right mindset and the right persistence, they will find the deal no matter how impossible it may seem in that marketplace. So for myself, obviously, I'm not buying rentals in Arlington or things like that where it's $500,000. I'm looking for stuff that's a little cheaper, under $200,000. I'm finding these deals in off market in Woodbridge in Prince William County. And I'm also looking for them in any sense of distress, because when there's distress in the property, I can most likely get it at a discount. I can put my renovation team in there, add some value, fix it up, make sure it's rentable. And then now I'll be at the right price point for the house of cash flow.
How did you find these properties?
Through referrals and through networks. I've always been looking through my rehabbing business and wholesaling. I've established a huge network of for sale by owners, of potential motivated sellers, of people who are out there doing the same thing who can send me leads. So this one, the first couple that I got was actually a lead from one of our network, our mortgage broker. He knew this guy from a while back and he knew the owner was a very difficult individual to deal with, and a lot of other investors just didn't want to deal with him just because of the personality. So he figured that, hey, Nhan, Nhan's a patient guy, and you can go ahead and try to deal with this guy. And because of our personality, we don't take things personally whenever people are difficult. We just kind of work with it, be patient, and try to add value in their lives. So because of that, we eventually got the deals. It took some time, but eventually we built a relationship of rapport and trust, and to be able to get it done.
This was that older real estate investor that you were telling me about that manages a bunch of his own properties, right?
Yeah, he actually owned, at the start when I first met him, he owned about 22 or 23, I believe.
Okay. And so he was looking to, I guess, retire or get out of the business and looking to sell some properties?
That's correct. His model is a little different. He does everything himself. He's more of a do-it-yourself type guy. He's a retired Marine. He used to work for the government. He's 75 years old right now as we speak. And so obviously, as he gets older, he can't be fixing things himself anymore. And none of his children want to manage the property and business themselves. So, of course, he's been getting some family pressure to let go, so that way he can truly not worry about them anymore and enjoy his retirement.
There was a story that you were telling me about him and how you negotiated with him over the HOA docs. I think this is a really great story. Why don't you tell us about that?
Sure. Well, this guy was very detail-oriented. He looked at every single nickel and every single dime. And because of his attention to detail, I provided that benefit for him in understanding that type of personality. So I was focused on, of course, buying a house where the price point would make sense for us to make sure it cash flows and make sure we don't have any money in. That's our criteria to make sure eventually it cash flows and have no money of our money in the deal once we get it all done. Well, when we negotiate, I'm focused on the purchase price and the normal stuff. He's focused on these small fees. I mean, it's in an HOA, and the resale docs is about $200 to get the HOA to pay for the resale docs. And traditionally, a seller would pay for that. Mm-hmm. And he was spending at least an hour or so with me, emailing back and forth, getting me to pay for the HOA docs. But in part of negotiation, we have to understand where the energy is. So his energy was there in that line item. So I allowed him to use his energy right there, and then eventually gave him a satisfactory result by saying, "Okay, we'll take care of that. We'll take care of that HOA resale doc fee if we can do this price or do this or do something else in compromise."
Last week on episode 52, we talked to Brian Castell and Justin Kahns about how you can buy rental properties with no money down. You mentioned that one of your strategies is to buy properties with none of your own money. Tell me how you're doing this.
So the first one, both my two rentals have two different stories. But the first one, I used a hard money loan, a private lender who I trusted, and he trusted me in my performance in the rehabbing business. He funded the whole acquisition. He funded also the entire renovation and some of the holding costs. I came up with a little bit of money also towards the tail end of the holding costs and the renovation because there were some extra things we had to do to make it rentable. But at the end of the day, once it was done, we put it on the market, we put it on for rent, and once we had a lease signed and executed and the tenant moved in, then we were able to get a local bank to refinance it out at 75% of the appraised value, which was more than enough to cover the hard money loan and some of the incidentals that I had inquired during the process.
Wow, that is really incredible. I know a lot of times that banks will have what they call a seasoning requirement, that you need to own the property for 6 months before they'll let you do a refi. Your bank didn't have anything like that?
For this bank, no. They one of the things they were looking for was my experience and my ability to perform. So the fact that they saw my resume of doing rehabs and different things in real estate for the last several years, they were already impressed with that accomplishment. So they saw me as a low risk investor. Well, I'm not a newbie, obviously, but they saw the experience as something valuable.
When you refied out of that hard money loan, you literally got back every penny that you had into that house, right? I know a lot of times those hard money lenders are going to charge a couple of points, and you had probably several $1,000s in rehab costs. You got all of that back so that none of your own money was in that deal at all, right?
That's correct.
That is awesome.
And also closing costs during the refinance as well.
That is really awesome. And then so you did that on the first place, and then when you bought the second property, you did the same kind of formula?
Same kind of formula, but actually different. So the first one, we actually take title and then refinance it again. So it was two transactions and paying two times the transactional charges. For the second one, we actually got a little bit smarter, got a little more creative, and did a kind of like a seller finance wrap contract for deed with the owner. And so we never recorded anything with the county, even though we took control of the property. But once we finished the renovation and refinanced it out, we went ahead and officially recorded everything and took title. You had to record with the county. So basically, in that scenario, both me and the seller kind of won because we only paid for transactional charges one time instead of two.
And so how's it going? How are you, have you had any problems over the last year with your tenants?
Of course, every new business has a problem. So the great thing about business is that business owners is that we solve problems. Mm-hmm. And without a problem, there is no opportunity. So let me take one problem that I think would be most beneficial from a rental perspective. Our very first tenant in that first rental property, actually we had to evict. And what had happened was that the strange is I have a property manager that manages all my properties. I choose not to manage any of the tenants. And they do a screening and do the standard background check. Everything checked out. There was a small credit issue, but there were no criminal history, no eviction records, nothing of any kind. So no red flags really. So we went ahead and accepted them. They moved in. and they lived there for actually 45, maybe about 50 days, and their rent check never cleared for both months. So of course we had to contact them and see what's going on. There was no communication. They wouldn't call back, no emails, no text, no phone calls. So we had, my property manager had no choice but to go ahead and do a notice, 5-day, pay or vacate. And so they never responded. So he went to court and had them evicted. And after the eviction, the sheriff came 3 weeks later to move them out, clean up the place again, and put another tenant inside within the next month.
Wow. So they never actually paid you for the time they were living in the property.
That is correct. And they didn't even switch over their water service. So actually, I was still paying the water bill and not know about it. So when we went to evict them with the judgment of what they owed for rent, we also added the water bill on top of that judgment as well.
Did you get any money out of that with the judgment?
No, I did not, because later I found out that the tenant who signed the lease is currently in jail.
Oh. Wow. And so I assume your manager did a background check and everything was perfect with their background. There was no indication that this would have happened.
That's correct. There was no indication of at all. And, and I just learned the business that, stuff happens sometimes, and we can cry about it or we can deal with it and learn from it and be better next time,
Yeah. Well, good for you for not being scared off. I mean, having your first tenant do that to you is pretty traumatic.
Absolutely.
So what about the other property? Everything's been running smooth with that one, or have you had any difficult tenants in there?
No, the tenants have been great. We had a couple of mechanical issues with the appliances, but the property manager's taking care of all that, and the rent's being paid on time, and security deposits paid on time, so everything's good to go there. So
okay. Did you ever consider trying to manage it yourself, or was your plan going into it to have it be totally passive?
Well, I've always thought about, okay, should I save my property management fee and just manage it myself? I've always had that debate with myself personally. I talk to myself about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I said to myself, my wife knows me very well, that sometimes I have too big of a heart when people get into a tight spot, and I usually am too soft on them, and you can't run a business that way. So I choose not to know my tenants, not to build a relationship with them. So if anything were to happen, my property manager can take care of the business aspect to make sure that my business is still in positive cash flow territory. Otherwise, my heart can easily bankrupt my business,
Right. Managing your manager is something that I think every rental property owner knows that they should be doing. But I think a lot of people aren't really clear on exactly how to do it day to day. What are you doing to manage your manager? Okay,
great question. Well, I always check on him at least twice a month, saying, everything good to go on the two properties. Are there any mechanical issues? Were there any calls, or had this tenant call to say anything wrong with the rent? So we check in every so often. He does do routine checks of the property at least once a month, gives me an update on what he sees. So we have a regularly scheduled routine type conversation just to see what's going on, to make sure he's, he knows what he's doing, number one. Number two, to make sure he's doing what he said he's doing, right? Because if I ask him a question he doesn't know, that raises a red flag as well.
Right.
Now, of course, people are people, and sometimes things come up. Things get more busy than usual. As long as he communicates with me, with any delays of responding or communication, that's fine. There's a lot of great managers out there, but there's also a lot of really bad managers out there. And just like you screen your tenants, I think screening a manager is really important. What did you do to screen your manager to make sure he was going to be good? Excellent question. Yes, everyone that you work with, you will want to make sure they're going to be an asset to your team and not a liability. So most of the folks on my team have either been referred to me from a trusted person who've used it before, or I've actually seen the portfolio and done a very thorough interview and investigation of what they've done. So this one that I'm using now actually was a referral from someone I've used that I've trusted. And when we met for to have a conversation, I kind of had him answer some questions about the process, what he would do as a property manager, what he wouldn't do as a property manager, what are the benefits that he does for his clients, and based on that conversation, we had a clear understanding of what our roles and responsibilities are. So if there are small maintenance issues, for example, let's say it's a $70 problem, he's going to take care of that. Okay. Ask me about it. If it's going to be a $200 problem, he may want to ask me about that, see if I want to fix that or not, based on the complaint that there is. So we have a clear understanding of the roles and responsibilities. So that way it doesn't bug me for every little thing, but at the same time, he's keeping the tenants happy and he's keeping the property well maintained and making sure that the rent's being paid on time.
That actually brings up a great point. You have a team that you've already put together because you've been flipping houses and you've got contractors and people that can do all kinds of work on the house. Your property manager also has his people that he knows and trusts to do maintenance work on the house. If something comes up, whose maintenance people are you using? Your people or his people?
Generally, if it's a small problem, I'll just let his people deal with it. If it's a bigger problem, then I'll, especially if the guy who renovated my house, who did the renovation, may have missed something that it should have taken care of, then I'll have my guy do it because it should be covered under warranty.
Okay. So when you renovated the properties, what kind of updating did you do?
Anything that was broken was fixed. Anything that was deemed not habitable, we removed and replaced. So, for example, on the second rental, I deemed the carpet to be a disaster because of pet feces everywhere. So, remove the carpet and remove the padding. So that way, all that smell will go away. Make sure it's healthy and livable for new people. And of course, we always put paint and repair drywall and things like that. Anything that was broken. The appliances, if they are broken, we would generally replace it from one of our other properties in rehabbing. The cabinets, if they're in okay condition and still workable, we'll just paint it.
Okay.
And countertops the same way. Anything that's not broken, we'll just clean up and paint, and then just leave it there.
Well, Nhan, it sounds like you really got this figured out. It sounds like you're really you've got a great business going, and I wish you the best of luck building out the rest of your portfolio. If somebody wanted to reach you or get in touch with you, what would be the best way to reach out to you?
Yes, on meetup.com, we actually have a local CASA real estate investor networking group once a month on the second Wednesday of every month in Dominion Valley. And basically in that meetup, we go through a free training. And then the biggest benefits of people who attend, not only get the training, but get a chance to network with other experienced people. So different vendors, people that you will need in your real estate business. So contractors, title companies, attorneys, agents, and things like that. They're all there in that group networking. So it's a great way to be able to break bread and network and meet new people and build everyone's business.
Great. Why don't you give out your email address too, in case someone wants to reach out to you that way?
Email is info@fortunehomesdevelopment.com.
All right. Well, thank you so much for subscribing to this podcast. We have a new episode every Tuesday. My name is Dan Lane, and this has been the Rental Income Podcast.